We are live. Welcome. Welcome. Let me go to the comments. Nobody's live, predictably. And I made the mistake of going live 30 minutes before Region 3, which is probably a bad move. But fuck it, who cares? People can watch this after I've gone live. Who gives a fuck? Yeah, this is a stream I've put on the back burner for the last 3 weeks. Family issues, shit like that, can't really go into details, but not being able to do it. Really wanted to do this stream, always wanted to do a live stream on Halloween. Really wanted to go into depth about the film, and this is just the perfect opportunity. Obviously a bit lacking in subscribers at the minute, but hopefully, I'll probably share this on Reddit, share this, on Twitter, maybe might get a few followers, so it's all good. Might give it a couple of minutes, give a couple of people turn up, but what this film means to me as a kid can't be put into words. It's 1978, sort of for the first time in 1988. Had nightmares till about 2008. Jay's in the chat. What's up, Jay? You're probably jumping over to Region 3, and I've made a mistake, mate. I didn't realise Region 3 was going live tonight in half an hour, but fuck it, you know what I mean? It is what it is, so I'm just going to fucking do this shit. But, I understand if I don't get anybody fucking watching, but hopefully you can watch it in the catch-up, and a few other people can watch it in the catch-up. So, yeah, it's going back to, what this film means to me, as I say, nightmares for 20 years from watching this film. No other movie holds up in the same way as this film to me. I love Friday the 13th. I love the franchise, but more than the Halloween franchise. But in terms of just individual films, this film it stands apart from everything else, in my opinion. Way more than even the best Friday, even Friday Part 4, which is my favourite Friday. Love that film, but it doesn't hold a candle to this film. But as I say, it's just such an important part of my childhood, and yeah, I just really wanted to go into depth about the film. Really wanted to go into just talk about the film, and I can't do that to friends in physical form, because they're just like, what the fuck are you doing? So you've got to do it through the internet, and obviously YouTube, StreamYard is a great place to do that. So yeah, as I say, I'm not, no point hanging around. I'm just gonna start playing it, and just gonna chat about the film. So here we go. If anybody's watching in the past, in the present, I'm on 005. It's just a bog standard version of Halloween. It's not that weird TV version where it shows Michael in as like a 12-year-old. This is just the normal version, and I'm just going to go with it. So here we go. I'm just basically watching it on an iPad with subtitles. Yeah, it's too awkward doing a setup with big TV and the Blu-ray, because where the TV set up compared to the computer, it'd be too much. I've got a laptop next to me, laptop's there, so it's a lot easier. But it's their opening credits, the orange on black, it's so iconic. Mustafa Card, every single, I think up until even Halloween 2018 has got its son's name at the beginning. There's always a card at the beginning of a Halloween film. Maybe not Rob Zombie's, but like that glowing pumpkin. Oh my god, so fucking freaky. I don't know if that sound of that is catching through on the live stream, but I don't know who a lot of when the names pop up at the beginning after Charles Cyphers, I don't know who the people are. There's a couple of names. I'm like, who are they? Dean Cundy, Tommy Wallace, of course. Tommy Wallace, the inspiration for Tommy. Obviously, music by John Carpenter. Not in my opinion his best score. It's up there. It's probably his. I still think Assault on Precinct 13 is his best score. I think this is probably a close second. What does an executive producer do? Does he just finance the film? I've always been a bit unsure. Erwin Yablans, directed by John Carpenter, and obviously we open now. And Haddonfield, Illinois. I always forget the opening scene. For some reason, I always think it jumps to where they go to Smith's Grove, and for some reason, I always cancel out the beginning scene with Michael. Obviously, as a 6-year-old kid. And this is obviously just walking to the house before he's put the mask on. I don't know, has John Carpenter ever admitted to being influenced by Bob Clark and Black Christmas? I'm not too sure, because this is very similar to Black Christmas. It doesn't bother me whether it's influenced or not. I mean, John Carpenter's he's got nothing to prove, but it would be nice if there was like a nod to Bob Clark, because Black Christmas is probably the OG when it comes to slasher films. And obviously this is Judith going upstairs, and this is the quickest sex scene of all time. I mean, look, we're counting here. How many seconds? Like 3 minutes 18. He's gone upstairs. Michael walks away. Light goes off, so they're getting down to it. So they've been at it 20 seconds. Michael's going to the kitchen, looking for a kitchen knife. Puts the light on. So it's 40 seconds now that they've been going at it. I don't know why he looks at the knife. I know it's obviously for effect, but it doesn't make any sense. You don't need to look at the knife you're holding. But that's this minor quibble. So he'll be coming down the stairs any minute. That would have been 60 seconds. He's got to get undressed and get dressed again as well. Yeah, so basically he got undressed, had sex, and is leaving in the space of less than 1 hour, 1 minute 20 seconds. That's piss poor performance, that, mate. I'm sorry. I'd be disappointed with that one. So Michael makes his way upstairs now. And again, this is a scene where, he gets into the room, she's brushing her hair, and he looks at the knife as he's stabbing. I was like, what? Who does that? It doesn't make any sense. Obviously, it's, I understand it's for the, cinematic effect, but it doesn't make any sense. I don't think she's got, I never realised before that she hasn't got a bra on, but yeah, it's oh, what's up? Steak sauces in the chat. On the back of his massive podcast from the other night, 4,000 views, I think, nearly. I don't know, but the algorithms are kicked in there, mate. It must be something to do with Elliot Page and her six-pack. And as he walks out now, obviously the camera pans back and they stare at him. And a few people have said in the past, why did they just stare at him? And it's perfectly obvious. It's done in the style of a play on a stage. It's so obvious that's what it's meant to be. And I can't understand people who don't get that. It's just the way he's filmed it. There's a big fucking knife as well. Who the fuck has that knife that size in the kitchen? It's like a samurai sword. And now we jump forward to 1978. October 30th, I think it is. It is October 30th, isn't it? Yeah, October 30th. And this is the setup for the scene where Carpenter wants to give an impression of that Michael is something more than human. With he'll say the line in a minute where, you know, he says, "Don't underestimate it." And obviously the nurse looks at him like, you know, he's trying to look at him as a human. He's like, no, he's not. He's not human. There's something a bit Night of the Living Dead about this opening scene as well. You just see them wandering around because they're quite zombie-like, and it's just in the white gowns. It's very much like a zombie film. So he says, "Don't underestimate it." Love that line. I like this line as well. They're giving him Thorazine, which I'm no big expert on drugs, but Loomis obviously believes that Thorazine will knock him out. So from the beginning, you're thinking, well, Carpenter's trying to make out, well, through Loomis is trying to make out this guy's not quite human by describing him as it. But Loomis clearly believes that Thorazine will make him unconscious in front of the judge. So he's kind of human, but he's not human, if you know what I mean. It's like he's more than human, but at the same time, a heavy sedative will put him to sleep. So it's kind of that, it puts the viewer like as in a quandary. You know, is this guy, what is he? Is he human or not? And this is the scene, obviously, where they're all just wandering around. Again, this is the great thing about like 70s films. You know, Loomis has to go to like a public phone, out of the car, and make a call, which leaves Michael free to just jump in the car and terrorize the nurse. You know, this was 2021 or any time in the last 20 years. It'd just be smartphone, mobile phone, cell phone, make a call, no problem. But you know, that's the problem with phone films these days. But, and this is where he puts the hand on her face. Yeah, he is. Yeah, Ben. Yeah, you're right. They well, you know, in terms of the new film, it is a direct sequel to the original, and in the original, in this new iteration of it, he's caught, you know, within what, like 10 minutes of the end of Halloween 1. So I'm glad they didn't show that in the new film, because that would have made Michael look too human. I think I like Michael to be this kind of force, but not like a Jason zombie. You know what I mean? He's kind of like he hovers between a human and something more, but it's never explicitly stated. And I think it went too far in the other direction with the sequels. when with the original, the great thing about it is he could have escaped. He could have had the bulletproof vest on. Okay, got stabbed in the eyes, but he could have been on some sort of crazy. There's like a scene in the Terminator where they try to explain away why he was able to walk off after punching his fist through the windshield. He could have been on a ton of drugs. There's a way of describing it, and I think that, yeah, exactly, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Ben, you are right there, but the only problem with that is you have to discard part two, and I love part two. So my favorite, the way I would have done things would have been a part one, part two, and then go to 2018. If you were to go 2018, there's so many different timelines. It's confusing. But back to the film anyway. Yeah, Laurie's she's just left. This is where I think she meets Tommy, and she's going to drop off. She's dropping off something at the Myers house, isn't she? Like a letter. I can't remember. I've seen the film 40 times and still can't remember. But there's a point that I think Lauren made a point in the live stream. If it's not Lauren, it's someone. I'm ripping it off someone. But he only actually really interacts with people who he's had, or he goes after people in terms of killing them, in terms of people he's interacted with. Now, the first guy he kills is obviously that's just he needs a van or a car, and he needs to change his clothes, so he has to interact with someone to do that. But after that, Laurie, Tommy turn up at the house. Laurie, obviously, we know what happens with Laurie. So he briefly stalks Tommy. He was there with Laurie. And obviously you've got Annie, who's, with Laurie, and, the whole Devon Graham thing. So he doesn't go after people who he's had zero interaction with in the first film. It's all based on people who he's had interaction with. And obviously when you come to Halloween 2, it's just free. It's a free for all, and that's where it loses its impact a little bit. But this is a great scene. This is where Laurie walks away from the front door, and you just see Michael come into shot. You can just see the side, and you can see like what looks like hair. And then he just walks out in broad daylight. I mean, yeah, it's great. This is another thing that makes him appear more than human, because he can just stand. He knows he must be one of the wanted men in Illinois, and he just stood there plain as day with a mask on, we assume, staring right at Laurie in the middle of broad daylight. And there's the great scene with Loomis, and this is the whole maybe somebody taught him how to drive. And again, that it gives the impression of like, how did he learn to drive? And this is another thing. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that he could have driven the car, because if he's been getting escorted around from building to building as a kid, he could have focused on driving a car. The basics isn't that difficult, clutch down, change gear. It's not too hard. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that he could have done this. Oh no, this is another great shot now. This is Laurie in the classroom when she looks out the window. There's a scene very similar to this in It Follows, and I don't know if It Follows maybe I think he must have took inspiration from this. It's a very similar scene. But she looks out across the road, and there's Michael stood in front of the car, and it's just far away. You can't really make out. Is he got a mask on, or is he just got the whitest face of all time? And then she looks away, and she looks back, and he's still there. And it's still difficult to tell whether he's wearing some sort of mask. And then obviously she gets asked the question. And you kind of know when she looks back, he's going to be gone. This is a good scene in terms of you can tell that Laurie is like the class SWAT. She knows she's obviously quite an intelligent woman, girl. You know, the way she just reels off the answer just as if it was nothing. She's clearly like, well educated. And this is the scene obviously where Michael grabs Tommy and he breaks his pumpkin. And talking about the boogeyman. And when he runs into Michael, Michael kind of like backs off like a little bit, sort of hesitant, like he's like, he grabs him and he sort of backs off. It's almost like a sort of like, oh, maybe not. But then he sort of gets in the car and follows him around. And that's, again, that goes into the point of like, he's had an interaction with him previously with Laurie, and he's kind of like, has a connection with him. He doesn't grab Tommy, he grabs the other kid, sorry. Tommy's the one who's walking away. And you can't quite make out the mask. You can see something, you see like a whiteness, but you can't really make out that walk. That walk is so fucking sick. He's just driving around now, and he'll just drive off. I mean, there's never any danger he was going to kill a kid. It's never going to happen. It's still a mainstream. I mean, John Carpenter, he may have killed a kid in Assault of Precinct 13, but he's not going to have a masked man stab a kid to death. It's just hard to believe that this is like Los Angeles as well. The way he filmed it, it does feel like, suburban. I don't know. I don't know Illinois, but it doesn't feel like. Now this scene here where he's killed the guy and he's dumped the car he stole. This feels more like California. It looks a lot more barren, a lot more dry. And obviously this is a guy he needed to kill to get to where he's going. So this is a case of like no interact. He didn't need to interact with this guy. He needed a change of clothes and he needed a car. But as I say, once we get to Haddonfield, he is literally just going after people he's had some sort of interaction with. And Loomis never sees the dead body. He sees the car, but he never sees the body. But yeah, looking at this, I mean, I'm no expert on, America, but this doesn't look like somewhere that's. It doesn't look like Illinois to me. It does look more like the southern states. You've got the famous rabbit in red matchbox as well. Now we get to the scene with Laurie. This is the famous Devon Graham scene building up now. It's a good introduction to how Laurie is as a character compared to Annie. We get to know that Laurie is a bit of a SWAT, a bit of a teacher's pet, and they were kind of like setting the final girl rules before the final girl. I think the final girl became a thing in the early 80s. I think somebody coined the phrase, but obviously this is before that. But Laurie was like the template, I suppose. Just a minute, scroll back a second. So we kind of get a setup where Linda is kind of like, the she's not like the slut, so to speak, but she's kind of like, she's like the polar opposite of Laurie, basically. She's quite, doesn't care about school, doesn't care about not doing her homework. She's meeting a boy to sleep with, and it's at this point you know that she's not going to make it. Annie's kind of like in the middle. She's kind of like between Laurie and Linda. And this is the scene, obviously the famous Devon Graham scene. Michael driving like a snail's pace. And he just stares, he just gives a little nod there to them. I don't know how he hears him say that, because he looks like he's a fair distance away. But oh, Ben, I didn't realise that. I've never really gone into depth about the whole shooting process, but it's interesting. Laurie's excited about babysitting, and they're just like, no, we just want to get laid. It just shows the polar opposites of the three of them. Laurie's like excited about looking after a little 9-year-old kid. Linda's just like, nah, screw that. I just want to get screwed. Obviously, this is the famous scene now where Linda walks off. You're left with Linda and Annie. She looks down for a brief second, and in that time, Laurie sees Michael stood by the hedge, and then he just obviously steps away. I mean, it's shot in a way that you kind of think, how did Annie not notice him? But again, it's that otherworldly sort of thing about Michael. Is what is it about him? He's just there's something. He's more than human. So Laurie looks at him. She looks down at her bags. He steps away, and she sees nothing. And obviously she approaches it, and you're thinking it's going to be a jump scare, but he's not going to be there. You know it. But where did he go? And this is where you see those memes online where he's running and jumping, vaulting over fences and stuff to get into position for the next jump scare. But that's the thing about this film, that you don't get cheap jump scares in Halloween. There's maybe one or two, but most of the jump scares are justified. And there's a jump scare right about any second now, which is totally justified because it's completely believable. And he walks off, goes to her home. Laurie's lost in thought, thinking about where Michael's gone, and then Sheriff Brackett turns up right in front of her, and it's totally believable. You're like, she's like the viewer. You're thinking, where's this guy gone? Is this guy real? Am I imagining things? Turns around, looks at him, looks to see where he is, and then obviously Sheriff Brackett's right in front of her. So it's a jump scare and no music involved. It's a jump scare. It's a jump scare done well. Which you look at modern horror films, and there's like cats jumping out of wardrobes, and they're just constantly looking for something to make you jump in it. Yeah, always a jump scare, Jay. Too right. And there'll be another jump scare in a minute. it's low key, but you know, she goes to her room, and it's another great scene. You know, she makes her way to the bedroom, looks out to the window, and there's Michael looking up at the window from the backyard amongst, you know, the washing. And then the phone rings, and you know, you lost your, again, it's the same situation. You're like looking at it thinking, how's he there? How's he disappeared? And it cuts from him to her, back to him who's gone, back to her. And she's like thinking, what the fuck? Like, where's he gone? Am I imagining? You kind of think, does she think she's imagining seeing him? And does she think she's imagining seeing him in the street? You know, at what point does she think, I'm fucking cracking up here? And as a viewer, you're thinking the same thing, because this scene especially, he just disappears almost in front of your eyes with the cut shots. And obviously the camera pans back, the phone rings, and it's, you know, it's kind of like a mini jump scare. But again, it's a justified jump scare because it makes sense. Phones ring when you're lost in thought. And obviously, it's that sort of, you know, they make out that it's somebody on the phone who's not who you think it is. Yeah, you know, Jess, great movie, mate. Great movie. Greatest slasher film of all time. I'm not sure there's many films I could do like a running commentary on apart from this, maybe a few others, because I think a lot of films I'd be lost trying to do. I could probably try and wangle it, but with this film, you know, it's so ingrained in my consciousness that I can kind of like just. I think the next scene is when she gets in the car and she starts smoking weed with Annie, unless I'm mistaken. Which again is kind of like breaks, you know, the final girl trope from the early 80s is the final girl didn't have sex and she didn't do drugs, but Laurie is smoking weed in the car on the way to. She goes to the hardware store where Sheriff Becker tells her, but you know, someone's stolen some knives. Oh, this is the scene where she stood waiting for Annie, I think, and it's this. Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, this really does look like autumn, and I don't know what autumn looks like in Los Angeles, but this really does look like it doesn't look like Los Angeles at all. It really does do its job. I'm no expert. I could be completely wrong, but I mean, I don't know what like Illinois looks like, but it does feel like the Midwest rather than California. Yeah, this is where Annie picks Laurie up. I've noticed in this film now, it's like from getting in the car, it looks like it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then like within like 10 minutes, it's pitch black. It's like I don't know whether that was intentional. It's just a bit of a strange one. Yeah, so Annie breaks out the joints, and this is where Laurie tells Annie that she likes Ben Stramer. Rest in peace. And now we go to the scene with Loomis. Is his first arrival in Haddonfield. They go to the cemetery. And obviously discover that Judith Meyer's gravestone is missing. Loomis isn't remotely interested in anything this fella saying. He just doesn't care. But again, moving a gravestone, it's one of those, isn't it? It's like this is meant to be a normal man, or is he not? Is he normal because you know he's moved a big massive gravestone by himself? So it's Carpenter's, you know, putting doubt into the viewer's mind, and this obviously for the first time viewer back in the day, that's what would have happened. Obviously on repeat viewings, we all know, but yeah, Judith Myers' gravestone is gone. Yeah, you can see Laurie's disgust when she's smoking. She's smoking the weed, but you can see that she's not really used to it because she's going back for seconds, but she's not used to it. You can tell that it's not something that comes natural to her. So maybe this it could be a first time, probably second time, third time. And you just see the shot there from behind the car, and you see Michael. We don't know specifically it's him. It could be a similar car, but the way it's shot, we know it's Michael. And I think this is a shot where between now and making it way to the hardware store, it suddenly goes from like, late afternoon to early evening, and it goes from quite light to really quite dark. Yeah, and Laurie's coughing. Yeah, she's not used to this. Is it a joint or is it a cigarette? I was supposed it was a joint. It just looks like a. The fact that they're sharing it, I was assumed it was a joint, but. And then they pull up in sheriff brackets there, waiting to tell them that. Yeah. And the fact that there's a police presence at a break into a hardware store, it gives you an idea of this town. You get the impression that this is the sort of town where the break in a hardware store is like a big deal. This isn't a big city with like real big violence problems. This is something where well, this is considered a big deal, where the sheriff is dealing with it. And obviously, this is a great scene as well in it, where Laurie and Annie drive off, and then Loomis pulls up, and then Michael drives past. It's almost like he's taking the piss out of Loomis. Loomis is hot on his heels, trying to track the guy down, and Michael's just fucking driving past, like taking the piss. And he just glances as well. He can see he pulls up and he's just like just a little stare, like like you're not going to catch me, mate. Oh, it's such a good scene. Yeah, this is scene now. So they're on the way home, Laurie and Annie, and yeah, it's gone really dark all of a sudden. And it's only been like 10 minutes, for maybe at the most. It's only a small town. And this is where Laurie confesses about Ben Schramer. You can see Annie sort of thinks at this point that Laurie is just not interested in boys at all, and she gets it out of her. Laurie obviously has got no confidence with boys. She doesn't think obviously she's maybe attractive enough for him, or she's just got the confidence. That was like a template as well for like these early slasher films. It's the girl who's not too confident, not too sure about her own, looks and stuff. They tend to be the ones who like survive. Michael's following again. They don't notice for some reason, and now it's pitch black. It's just it's pitch black now. All in the space of like a very short space of time. And they all live very close to each other as well. It's all like the same street. And Michael carries on driving, pulls up, lights off, gets out. See, now it's dark. He's got the mask on. So this is the perfect scenario because he's taken a mask from the hardware store. So clearly these masks were being mass produced across Illinois, maybe across the country. So he's not going to really draw any attention at this point because he's just wearing a typical staple Halloween mask. So at this point, pitch black, he can move around and really not, draw too much attention. And Loomis isn't going to know like that this is the mask he's going to put on. Obviously, after the first film, Loomis knows, well, Michael's wearing that bloody, William Shatner mask. He's the guy to go for. But he doesn't know this in the first film. He doesn't know how the guy's going to rock up and have him feel. He could be wearing anything. And this is where Loomis goes to Michael's old home. Another great scene where he explains to Brackett about the seeing Michael as a 6-year-old. And saying he's got the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. There's a scene in Halloween 4 where he talks about Michael Loomis. And he's talking about how he when at the end of 2 and he blows him up. And I can't remember who he's explaining it to, but he's saying, I was hoping he'd burn in hell. But then he says, I knew, it's along the lines of, I knew in my heart of hearts, hell would never accept him. And I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck? So what? Michael's too evil for hell. So what? He goes down. He goes up to the pearly gates, and God's like, no, you're going straight to hell, mate. You're an evil twat. So he goes to hell, and Satan's like, nah, mate, you're too evil for me. Yeah, I can't be. You're just too evil. Go away. You go back to Earth. It's like, what the fuck? That's a great line in the film, but it's fucking stupid. At this point, Sheriff Brackett is still completely oblivious to what they're about to come up against. In fact, it takes a lot of him. I think even towards the end, he does say, if what you say is true, God help us all. But there's a bit of a cheap jump scare there, where it's something from the roof comes through the window. It's a cheap jump scare, but it earns it. It's Halloween. It earns a cheap jump scare. It's the only cheap jump scare that the film had to say. This is when he says, less than 15 years ago, he spent how many years? Was it 7 years trying to rehabilitate him? This is no. He met a 6-year-old. The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. Yeah, he spent 8 years trying to rehabilitate him, and then 7 trying to keep him locked up because he knew that what was there was just evil. I can't imagine anyone else playing that role apart from Donald Pleasance. I know it's easy to say in hindsight because, when you've seen a film like 40, 50 times, from a film which is released 43 years ago. But it's true, you can't. It's like trying to imagine someone playing Freddy Krueger apart from Robert Englund. I'm still unsure why they didn't get a major police operation underway in this small town. Then we cut to Laurie, she's babysitting Tommy. And he goes to the window. Oh, I think this is the iconic shot where he's just stood on the other side of the road in the porch. Such a good shot. The phone ring and he's on the phone. it's kind of like at the beginning of the movie, Laurie's seeing Michael, then Tommy sees him, but she doesn't believe him. You know, she just plays off, oh, he's just a kid, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But she's seen this guy, you know what I mean? And this is where Michael kills the dog. People probably get more upset about the dog getting killed than any of the humans. Like, that's like that in most films. The scene with Annie as well when she's in the laundry, and I was, no matter how many times you see that scene, it's longer than you think, and you always think that Michael's going to pop up before the back of the car, even though no matter how many times you see it, your mind always tells you he's going to turn up, and it's not until she gets in the car that he actually does turn up. And there's the scene, the kids are walking past the house, and Michael's just stood there in the moonlight. Great scene. Tommy runs to tell Laurie, and she doesn't believe him. And he's gone. If he'd only said he had some creepy mask on, she might have believed him. So we get closer to a bit of nudity now. We don't really see anything though. Michael's getting having a bit of a little perv through the window. You'd kind of wonder whether he does have any sort of like, human emotions when it comes to like sex and stuff. He's definitely got a sense of humour though. That's the thing. He has got this like, weird sense of humour in terms of, with Linda's death, where he puts, the sheet over him with the glasses. I mean, that's it's a bit out of character for him, really, but it works really well. And the dog's dead. The TV it's very 50s. I mean, she's watching. I mean, the telly is probably from the late 70s, but they're watching, a 50s movie, and this gives me sort of like It Follows vibes. I think It Follows maybe picked up some of the vibes from Halloween. Where I mean, obviously Halloween is definitely set, obviously specifically set in the 70s, but late 70s, and there wasn't a thing from another world from like the late 50s. It Follows kind of feels like a mishmash of all these sort of eras. I think from Another World, by the way, what a great film that is. Love that film. I'm assuming John Carpenter did he obviously he remade The Thing, a few years later. I'm just wondering whether there was any if he had like a big affinity to that film, and that's why he put it in there, and that's why he went on to make The Thing from Another World. I'm not sure. I'm not. Tommy's talking about the boogeyman. We call him the bogeyman in England, not boogeyman, but So Annie's walking outside now. I say this scene just really goes on, but not in a bad way. It's really effective. I mean, it's just a masterclass in building up tension, making the character matter. We don't really get to know Annie that well. She's only really in a few scenes, but you still care. He does enough to make you care about the character. And bearing in mind, up until this point, we are now, 46 minutes in, we've had one kill, and that was a guy we didn't even meet, who we don't care about. In most slasher films, they usually have off someone by now, but you don't need to do that. If you're going to build up the intensity of the film, you don't need to just off random people. You get a small cast together, make the viewer care about that small cast, and then when they do kill them, it's all the more effective. But obviously after Halloween, once you got into the early 80s, it was more about body count over storyline. And obviously Friday the 13th was guilty of that, but I mean, obviously I love the Friday franchise, but it was more about we need more blood, we need more bodies, we need more boobs, but so she's trapped, and Lindsay's the most dozy kid I've ever seen. Just stares into space. I'm looking forward to see how they do Tommy in Halloween Kills. Obviously, they've got what's the guy's name? His name escapes me. He's playing Tommy. I don't really know how they're going to go about bringing him into it. Halloween Kills seems to be taking fan service almost too far. To me, obviously you've got to take note of fan service, but throwing characters into the mix just for the sake of it. I don't know why is Tommy. Bring back Paul Rudd. I think Paul Rudd is maybe slightly too expensive now for the Halloween franchise. Mind you, once Ant-Man's done, maybe. See, I always think by this point Annie's being killed, and it's like she hasn't. This is where she makes her way to the car. Apollo Valvora, what's going on, man? How does Halloween Kills not seem like another Rob something sort of other? Yeah, well, you've got a point. You've got a point. I don't know. I mean, do you know something more than me, Apollo? I don't really. I've seen a couple of small trailers. I don't really know what they've got planned for it. I've tried to stay away from social media regarding the new film because the film came out. Well, the film was made a year ago, so I'm expecting it to drop online before it even makes it to the cinema. So I'm just trying to stay away from. But if you want to let me in on some details, I don't mind. But yeah, I don't really care if it's good or bad. I mean, for me, the Halloween franchise, it is what it is. It's got so many different timelines by this point. I don't really care. For me, it's always going to be 1 and 2. I love 3. I love 4. After that, it's on a slippery slope. But money talks. So they'll do Halloween Kills, they'll do Halloween Ends, and then just probably repeat it. So what is it? And he's taking Lindsay over to Laurie's, which spells the end of her life. Halloween 4, Halloween 20. Is that your preference, Apollo? When you say Halloween 4, Halloween 2018, is that what you are they your two favourites, or? She's on the way to pick up Paul. No, she's not. She's not on the way to pick up Paul because she's going to get her throat sliced. I don't know why I've got all this StreamYard branding. I don't know why that's there. I don't know why that's there. It should only be that, but I don't know how to get rid of it. Oh, so that's your. Oh, right. Yes. I love 4. I do love 4. It does nail that sort of aesthetic of like Halloween a lot. But I mean, for me, 4 is the last great Halloween film. I'm not a massive fan of. I don't mind Halloween 2018, but it's for me, Michael. He's still putting in a few scenes where he just goes on a rampage. It kind of feels out of place with what he did in the first film. But it's meant to be a direct sequel to 1, and in 1 he's a bit more cunning, a bit more. He picks his kills like as like I've described before. He basically kills the people he encounters. They encounter him first, but in Halloween 2018, he just seems to go on a killing spree for no apparent reason. It seems a lot more reminiscent of what he does in Halloween 2, and Halloween 2 in this universe doesn't even exist. But each to his own. I mean, this is where she checks herself in the mirror, suspects something. I think she sees the breath on the. So Michael does breathe. We know that much. I don't know why he lets her honk the horn for so long before slicing her throat. She's a good while there where she's just like honking the horn. Why don't you slice her throat? To be honest with you, I like the fact that they briefly show his face. It kind of just for that brief second, it makes him all even like more mysterious to me, because the fact that you just see it very, very briefly, it lets you know that it kind of makes the viewer think, right, so is he human? Because I've seen his briefest glimpse of a face, get the mask back on, and you go back to that, sort of, almost like zombie-like character, the way he carries himself. But I think he does a good job of Carpenter, because it kind of, just as the viewers begin to think that this guy isn't human with what he goes through, he then takes his mask off, and then you just see like a normal-looking kid. And he basically, I think John Carpenter said he just wanted like a young, like good-looking fella to play Michael, as opposed to some sort of, like scary-looking guy, some sort of Kane Hodder character. You'd be like, fucking hell. But he was just like a young, like decent-looking lad. So I think it made sense in a way. And the fact that you don't really see his face again in the series, well, not until, well, I think obviously Rob Zombies you do see his face, but I think, unless I'm mistaken, after Halloween 1, you only see his face like it's sort of shadowed in a shadowy way in Halloween 5. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right there. Obviously, Laurie's panicking now. They've said they've seen the boogeyman, and he's dead. And obviously this is when he makes his way over to Linda. Only the way kids can do. They've just seen like a killer, but they just like get told off and just sit right back down and just be quiet as if it's like they haven't just witnessed something. And we cut back to Loomis now. I think this is the Loomis when he talks. Yeah, so really scares the kids off, and he looks really pleased with himself as well when he's done it. As they approach the Myers house. So it's crazy looking at this Myers house compared to the Halloween Resurrection Myers house. You wouldn't be able to get a film crew in this house. Sheriff Beckett puts his hand on his shoulder, and you can see Loomis is jumpy as hell. I was under the impression that Halloween Kills is going to take place. Halloween is going to take place a year on from the events of the last film. It ends. I don't know when Halloween ends. Is that going to take place a year on from? I'm not sure. I was under the impression that Kills is meant to be taking place 12 months later, or is it? I don't know. I've said that. I haven't seen the trailer. Maybe not. Because when you see the trailer, you see the ambulance going past, the fire engines going past. So maybe I don't know. I'm not like I said. I've tried to stay out of the online stuff regarding Halloween. I want to go into it as blind as can be. So maybe, yeah, I understand what you mean. Yeah, it would be November the 1st by the time it happens. But are they gonna have the firefighters turn up, the ambulances, whatnot? Attend the house burning down. They're not going to find the body, and then it's all going to go quiet for 12 months, and then obviously Halloween the following year he's back, and then would they do the same for ends, or would that be all set on the same night? But I'm not entirely sure, but I think that's the way they'll go. I think what they'll do is Halloween Kills will be set 12 months after Halloween 2018. So Linda's going to get it on with her boyfriend. I mean, they are basically cannon fodder or knife fodder, Linda and Annie. They don't really do much in the film, but you always sort of, they never feel like cheap characters. They always feel, they feel like well-written characters, and you do have an affinity with them, and you don't want to, obviously you don't want to see them die, because that's what we're here for, but they're not just nothing characters. I mean, the fact that we remember their names says enough. Although, having said that, her boyfriend's name is escaping me at the minute. And I've seen this film a lot of times. I think he lasts a bit longer though than Judith Meyer's boyfriend. I think his performance is slightly better. And the shot, it just pans back now, and there's Michael waiting in the doorway. Music comes on, and it's not looking good for them. Laurie's just carved a pumpkin. Tommy and Lindsay. Any prediction on who the killer or killed be in Scream 5? I have The only thing I can imagine with Scream 5 is, which has been mentioned before, and I don't think they're going to do that, is, well, they'd have to go full meta and have it so that it's a bit like Freddy's Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So you bring back, Skeet Ulrich, Drew Barrymore, and there's somebody who's actually killing the real cast members. Barring that, I think you'd have to go with one of the three main characters, like Neve Campbell or David Arquette or Courtney Cox. I can't honestly see what else would work at this point, because I honestly, after this, I think if they were going to carry on the Scream franchise, you'd have to go for a full reboot, a remake of some sort, because how many horror franchises sort of make it to a number 5, and how many have any credibility after number 5? Not, once you've gone to number 5, 6, the credibility is more or less gone. So if they want to retain any sort of credibility and keep this franchise going, I think they would have to go to a full reboot, a full remake. This has got to be the end of the old Scream, and I think the only way to do that is to go full meta, or have one of the three main cast as a killer, and you're going to have to kill off one of the three main cast as well. You can't have all three of them surviving again. It's ridiculous. Bring a bit of uncertainty into it. There's Linda getting it on. And this is where he goes for his beer. This scene when he goes for the beer, it almost takes you by surprise how quickly he does get killed, because it's like, this is not drawn out. He goes to the kitchen, and pretty much straight away Michael comes out of the cupboard, wherever it was, and he just stabs him in the chest. It's as opposed to the Annie kill, which is dragged out a lot. This is, but again, this is a guy who's like, we barely met, so it's not really a big deal. And he's done his business, and now he's finished. Linda liked it anyway. Go and get me a beer. I'm always surprised that Michael didn't actually kill Linda with the knife, to be honest with you. He's got the knife ready to kill this guy, and strangulation always seems like a strange choice of kill for Michael. I always thought, I mean, he's killed in all sorts of ways during the franchise, but it always seems rough for me. It's just Michael should always be with some sort of sharp weapon. Strangulation just doesn't really do it for me. This is where he sees the open door. Doesn't think anything of it, really. This scene really just demonstrates Michael's strength as well. Yeah, there's no sort of build up. He just comes straight out and pins him off. I don't know if they make I don't know how tall this guy's meant to be, but they make Michael look big in this scene, and I don't think Nick Castle was particularly tall, but and I'm not entirely sure whether putting a knife through someone's chest through the wall would make them stay up like that. I'm pretty sure they would just Surely that wouldn't work, but it looks good. It looks really good. And then the little cock of the head as well. It's almost like he's looking the way a human would look at an animal. After they've killed him, it's like he's not quite sure how do these people react when they're killed. It's a really yeah. There's definitely something almost like subhuman about him in that situation. And obviously, this is when he comes up to the bedroom and he's got the sheet on with the glasses, really showing a sense of humour. And Linda just flashes her tits. Once again, another scene with, without smartphones, mobile phones, cell phones, the scene would have played out slightly different. She wouldn't have even left the bed and rang up Laurie, but she has to make her way to, obviously, to the landline, which enables Michael to just go behind her and strangle her. And obviously, Laurie hears her moaning and groaning. I think something else is going on. I think she's just joking about. He doesn't do a very good job of choking her, actually. And then obviously she falls off and reveal Michael's face. It's also the way he picks the phone up and holds it to his ear, like he's not entirely. He kind of looks at it as if he doesn't really know what it is. I don't. I think he does, but well, he definitely does. But it's just because it's such an expressionless mask, you can't really make out what he's thinking. I mean, one of the things about the scene where she goes over and she finds when their bodies sort of piling up, it's a bit unrealistic, when she finds the Judith Myers gravestone and the bodies are just like, you know, that is something that I have like a slight issue with. It does kind of like go beyond the realms of like, realism, but it is what it is. It's also like when you don't watch the film for a while, you forget how little of a role Loomis has. He doesn't really do that much in the film. He pops up at the beginning. He makes an appearance midway through the film, and then at the end he comes and he sort of saves the day. He certainly rescues Lottie, but he doesn't really do that much. But as I say, I think I'm right in thinking that he basically turned up for a couple of days filming and got paid far more than the rest of the cast because he was obviously an established actor. Jamie Lee Curtis, this was like one of her first roles, so she wouldn't have been getting paid that much for it. Oh, he's getting concerned now. It's amazing. This is Halloween night, and obviously this is later than, you know. Obviously, the chicken treaters have like been and gone, but there's just. I mean, this is the late 70s, but nobody around, nobody walking the streets, no cars up and down. It's just it is. You'd think it was 3 o'clock in the morning when it's probably what 10 o'clock at night. But it's a small like complaint. It's not even a complaint. I understand this is what horror films do, but it is that thing with horror films where you think, where's everybody? Like Halloween 2, why is there nobody in this hospital? We've got like 20 babies. We've got no nurses. We've got one nurse who has sex in the jacuzzi. Oh, another thing about the other thing about that this is it is a common trope in horror films when she escapes Michael and she's like, you know, banging on doors, just, you know, trying to, for people to let her in, and they're just like looking at her going, "Nah, we're not opening the door for you." I mean, like, she's just like a teenage girl, and you're not going to answer the door to a screaming teenage girl, really? You're just going to like, no, close the curtains. We're not letting you in. Also, she has very little interaction with Michael. You know, barring the opening, you know, few scenes in the film, she doesn't actually have any more interaction with him. The last interaction she has, yeah, is when she sees him in the garden. After that, she doesn't see him. So by this point, she's probably put him not out of her mind, but she's probably thinking she's put it down to just, you know, someone playing, messing about. It's Halloween. Someone's walking around with a mask, just being a joker. And it's not until this point where I think where she thinks, you know, something's up. Great use of the music as well. The way it just slows down with the theme tune and then speeds it up, you know, as the danger increases. Definitely the most iconic horror theme, I think, of all horror films. As I say, I still like Assault on Precinct 13 as a piece of music, but in terms of an actual effective piece of, you know, horror music, I don't think this has ever been bettered. You know, I don't think even the Exorcist music can hold a candle to this. And it doesn't because it doesn't have that. You know, a lot of sort of like the 80s, like horror music has got like a really cheesy, dated sound to it. Because this is just like a piano. It's kind of like timeless. It's never going to sound dated. And the Swishy goes into the bedroom now, Laurie. As I say, this is the one scene where I think it's a bit, you know, yeah, Michael's taking all his time to spread out the bodies, stick bodies in wardrobes and stuff. It's no, she's The shit hits the fan now. The way the doors just open and bodies come out, yeah, it's a little bit, yeah, that's the one thing about the film I find a bit silly. This is the great shot now. I've not seen the film in 4K, but apparently where the scene where he just comes from the darkness with the mask on, is it less effective because of the picture quality? Does it work as well? Because I've heard people say that because the 4K, because it's such a high quality picture, it loses some of the impact. Michael lets himself in. Only then does she smash the glass. Only at the very last second. And obviously this is where she goes banging on neighbours' houses. I thought this was like meant to be a friendly neighbourhood. Clearly not, if nobody wants to let her in. She falls over there, which is a little bit... Yeah, please help me. No, we're just going to close the blinds and turn the lights off. Okay? Yeah, Michael starts walking across. Love this shot. Gets closer and closer. She can't find the keys. Not being able to have your keys is kind of like it's a common trope amongst, especially when you're involved in cars these days. You know, how many times you've seen a horror film where they get into a car and they can't get the keys, or the car won't start. As you know, with modern horror films now, people don't necessarily have keys; they just have a fob. So that could be one of those sort of tropes which is going to become a bit outdated. She sees the open window and she knows he's got it in. This is again when he rises up from behind the sofa. So she stabbed him in the neck, I think. Yeah. I always get mixed up with it, but what point is it the neck and which point is it the eye? It's the eye when he breaks him through the wardrobe. But this is, I understand this is like, you know, I've never lived through a horror film. I've never had someone attack me, but it becomes such a trope this where they just turn their back on the psychopathic killer who's trying to kill them. And they just turn their back on him. Like it's not, yeah, we'll be fine. No, you stab them again, or you run as far as you can. Don't just sit there and let them get the strength back. She does this a couple of times. Loomis is just skulking about. I always feel sorry for Sheriff Brackett because he doesn't realise at this point that Annie's been killed. It's only into the sequel that he actually realises. Was it the boogeyman? Yes, it was. It's pretty obvious that opening the veranda, whatever it's called, onto the balcony, he's never going to believe that she's jumped. And if he thinks she's jumped and he leaves, then what if he goes in and tries to kill the kids? What's she going to do then? She's going to have to then go and confront him again. Struggles to open that wardrobe. She shouts, gets the clothes hanger straight in the eye. I mean, that's going to hurt. That's got to hurt, surely. It hurts him enough to drop the knife. And then she does the same thing again. Goes past him and sits down. You would never do that. I'm being too harsh though. I love this film, but you would never do that. Yeah, go to the Mackenzie's house. If you go to the house I went to, they'll just fucking ignore you. You wouldn't turn your back on Michael, would you? You just wouldn't do that. And he sits right back up. I think the Undertaker must have. I've seen the Undertaker do this a few times in WWF. He just sits up and then goes. Stolen right off Michael. This is where Loomis realises something's going on now. Sees the kid screaming. He does a really bad job here. He just like slices her arm, and you think he could have just put it right through the back of her throat here. That's where he pulls the mask off. Just briefly see his face. I love that shot. Just a normal guy. Mask back on. Shot in the head, shot in the body. And Laurie says, of course, that was the boogeyman. Loomis agrees. And then there's a realisation from Loomis now. He's not shocked, he's not surprised. It's a look of like, yeah, I thought this might happen. And he's gone. And they just cut shots then of Haddonfield. And this is the way it should have been for Halloween Kills, for Halloween 2018, I think. I think they took away a bit of the mystique around him by having him caught within like 10-20 minutes or whatever of being shot. But that's the end of the film anyway. Anyway, I'm not going to hang around too long. Region 3 is on, so I might just check in on that. For anyone who's popped up in the chat, Apollo, thanks for taking part. Jess, Jay, Ben, Steak, thanks a lot for jumping in. I understand that it probably wasn't the best time to do a stream with Region 3 going on, but for anyone who did jump in, thanks guys, and I will see you later.